welcome to Heart Path Podcast. We have the lovely Julia Willick from Inner Peace Coaching with us today. And I am so excited to have you here, Julia. I'm just going to share a little bit with the folks that are listening or watching. You do have a background in trauma-informed yoga, meditation teaching, and also clinical hypnotherapy now. So I'm very excited to have you come and share. And oh God, hi, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to join.
I just have to say, I want to speak on your heart a little bit because we have known each other for quite some time. Before recording, you had mentioned 100 years. I'm like, "Oh, don't give it away." Not quite 100 years, but I really remember, I think where I got to know you more was really when you had that community yoga space. It wasn't just yoga, but community space in Cochrane. And I did workshops there, and you just were always open and welcoming and
Yeah.
so focused on community. Like it was called community, but you really wanted to have a space for other practitioners or teachers to
Yeah.
come and share their gifts. And I just
Right.
when I think of you, I think of your heart with that.
Aw. Yeah, that was the little log cabin studio right in the heart of Cochrane. And that was so beautiful at its time. It really served a big purpose at that time. And that was exactly the idea. It was called Community Yoga Cochrane. And Um, I wanted it to be warm and inviting and have a different energy. I feel some people can be a bit intimidated by yoga studios, which is so sad. And so I will never forget that was one of the most exciting moments during the whole time we had community yoga was I was running a lunch class that was short, I think 45 minutes, so people could fit it into their lunch break. And this one woman came in and she was a regular and she walked in with her jeans on and a t-shirt and she said, Julia, I forgot to bring my yoga pants today. When I was at work, I realized, and you know what? I know you wouldn't care. I know nobody would care. And that was such a nice feeling. And so here I am in my jeans, in my t-shirt. And that meant so much to me. And that because it was a reflection of exactly that energy that I wanted to create, which is really what I truly believe yoga ideally is all about a very safe, warm, welcoming space. Yeah.
And what a gift that is for people to know that they can come as they are. And even if there's those circumstances of, oops, I don't fit the part right now, but I can still come. That's huge.
Right. hmm that was the whole idea, and I'm always so um, joyful when there is places like that, where people really feel that warmness and that safety. That's pretty special, and that's really so important in the type of work that we're doing to create that kind of environment, right? And yeah, yeah, it was good.
Sure. Can you share a little bit about your journey? Because it did start with the foundations of yoga, and you have done a lot of the meditative practices, and it has transformed where you're doing, I would imagine it's like primarily the clinical hypnosis. So how, even though that
Yeah.
involves movement too, because I had a,
How did that happen? That's right.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so it was actually quite interesting. After I had my second child, back then I started, so yeah, about 17 years ago, I started to struggle with a postpartum depression and tried a few different things to deal with it, including I believe I tried antidepressants at the time, and it had for the first time in my life because it became quite severe. And you're a new mom, you want to function, you want to take care of your little one. And it actually had the opposite effect on me than what it should have been. And so I stopped taking that. And I should have known. I'm so highly sensitive to even taking an aspirin, but that's a whole other chapter. So I stopped that immediately, tried so many different things, and then someone who became a really, really good friend approached me and said, Julia, I have an idea. Try some breath work and yoga with me, which I honestly thought back then at the time. Didn't quite believe the whole thing. And though, I was curious, but it had kind of the same idea for me, like going for a run or a good walk, and that can temporarily make you feel better. But the amazing thing happened, and that was truly the beginning of my whole journey. As we all know, there's no coincidence that I had that conversation with her, that she inspired me, and ended up doing yoga with her, I think 5 days a week at the time. And for weeks and weeks. And it went from showing up like a moody teenager with my coffee cup, not really knowing what we're doing, and still doubting the whole process, to this is interesting, to after 2 or 3 weeks starting to shift into a whole new way of feeling and being that I've never experienced before. Just being in my body, just being present, just being connected to my breath. So, and then after a month or so, it had completely opened up new doors for me. And I was completely hooked at that time. And I realized that there's something here that is very powerful. And unlike other people, I feel there was a phase when a lot of, maybe a decade ago or so, or even longer, when a lot of these hot yoga studios opened up, and I feel a lot of teachers and friends of mine transition from more of a workout to hot yoga, and let's get a vinyasa flow and let's get our blood pumping, and then transition slowly to slower practices like yin yoga, and from there to maybe trying yoga nidra and meditation. But for me, it was quite different. I think I was immediately more aware of the emotional and mental effects of yoga and breath work at the time. That's what I was drawn to. And that's what I took my original training in, with vinyasa, flow, creative sequencing. From there, I transitioned pretty quickly into trauma-informed yoga, which is really what most of my yoga is, and then into yin yoga. So it became rather quickly, actually, within 2 or 3 years from there, to yoga nidra. And it's funny because when I had that beautiful little log cabin studio that you talked about, that's really what I ended up doing for the last couple of years. In there, I was mostly offering events with our friend that we have in common with Sandy.
Sandy,
Yay,
powerhouse,
Sandy!
shout out.
Absolutely. And we had these events with yoga nidra and sound bath. This combination of the bowls and the nidra was just so beautiful and powerful.
Just in case someone might not be familiar with yoga nidra, could you
Yeah.
explain that?
Yeah, it is same as all yoga, obviously, a very old, thousands of years, 5,000, 6,000. Who really knows how long practice, ancient practice. And it's a meditation where you lie down on your mat, you get comfortable. It starts with a full body relaxation, through a rotation of consciousness, it's called, where you bring your awareness to all the different parts of your body to relax them. And it's really beautiful, especially a powerful practice for people that otherwise have a hard time meditating, which, let's be real, is is a lot of us, to sit quietly on a little cushion for 30 minutes. So it's very, very helpful for people when someone guides you through each and every part of your body to bring the awareness there, to relax that part of the body. It's beautiful, beautiful practice. Um, and that's more the physical, the relaxation aspect. But from there, you're diving deeper into layers and layers into your subconscious. And some people practice yoga nidras just really for the mostly for the benefits of relaxation. Also, people that struggle with sleep, because this very deeply relaxed state can offer, they say 45 minutes of yoga nidra is equal to 3 hours of sleep or more. But you can dive into a lot deeper layers of healing with the, because you move into this beautiful theta brainwave state that we use in hypnosis, that in deep meditation, to connect with the subconscious. So that's when the nidra gets interesting, when you can start to work with releasing limiting beliefs, gently plant these seeds in this state that people, you're not filtering it, you're not questioning it like we do in our awake state, but you just let those beautiful messages come in and absorb them. And then, yeah, there's more to it. People that practice it quite frequently, they might work with a sankalpa, which is an I am statement, a powerful intention, usually worded in present tense. And you drizzle that sankalpa, this intention, into your practice, and in the beginning, at the end. And you can work with the same sankalpa for weeks or months or even years. Yeah, so very, very powerful practice.
I have a question. We're jumping ahead a little bit, but I know that you offer recorded or recordings for your session, your hypnosis sessions that you have with people to help them kind of integrate what's happened through that session. But do
Yeah.
you offer yoga nidra recordings for people? Is that something that you're doing yet? Is that something you've ever been interested in?
You're jumping ahead for my goals for 2026. I love it.
Well, you're
Yeah.
talking about it. I'm like, oh, like that would be amazing if you had these yoga nidra meditations with the Sankalpa and just
You know what? This is so interesting. You're bringing this up. I love it because exactly what has been happening is what I do is I typically see people that are new to hypnosis a couple of times before I do deeper sessions. So I often do, even though I not always, but in many cases, because, and yeah, we're jumping ahead now, because lots of my clients are people that struggle with anxiety and depression, interestingly enough, but not surprising, because we're attracting people that reflect parts of our own journey, and that's what I use this practice for. And so and working with someone with anxiety to that degree, and making them feel safe to go into hypnosis for the first time, can be quite challenging for people, because if you already struggle with anxiety and here you sit with someone and you have to let go of control, which you really don't, but it feels like that a little bit, right? It feels nerve-wracking. It's something new. Some people have these stereotype images of stage hypnosis from movies in their mind. And so to really inform people, but then also, more than talking about it, to experience it. So usually what I do, the first session is more of a, so basically a yoga nidra, in the sense of a guided meditation where people get a feel for it. What does it feel like to drift gently from being in this conscious state, allowing yourself to drift off a little bit into that relaxed, deeper relaxation state. I don't typically make the first session even interactive. It's usually just listening to my voice, again, like a nidra. I might ask, I do an ideometer response where I ask them to lift a finger to a yes or no so that I get an idea how about depth and how they go into hypnosis or not. But so that is usually how I do that first session. And I'm going to come to the answer of your question. What then happens is in the second session or third one, depending on the client, if they're comfortable, I'm going to go into the deeper work that is interactive, where we start talking in hypnosis. And then depending on what surfaces in that session, which is often very revealing of certain dynamics, often in those first few years of life, and we can get back go into that a little deeper later. But I then create a recording because I feel there's two parts to the session. There is that one-on-one work that happens in that moment. And I am completely jumping ahead now. But that is
Fine. We're in the flow.
that is neuroscience meets energy work, traveling through time and space. You can't really explain what happens in these sessions. It's merging, these different things together that are so powerful. It could be called so many things of shamanic work or energy work. I don't even like to label it, what happens. But then it's almost like a little seed, and like coming out of these sessions, people can be so powerful, but it's also raw, and it's almost like a little seed in a little plant that I want them to water and take care of, because there's often major breakthroughs that happen. And that's when I create a recording that I typically send after, where through repetition and listening to that recording, through whatever surfaces in that session, for people to really nurture that little plan. Because going out of my very warm, welcoming, relaxing space with the nice smells and the candles and this, back into the real world, we know how it is. So it's a job to protect that. And if life gets busy and people are there, that's where the recording comes in at night, to listen to that, ideally while falling asleep. And so again, that was a very, very long answer to your question. But the thing is, I started to realize that I do these custom recordings for every single person. And that's a lot of my time. So I have to get a little smarter with my time. And I still will do custom recordings, but there is definitely themes that are relevant in these days and times, according to anxiety and what's going on, where I might start a library of recordings, because I do feel that people quite drawn to it. I just got over the last few days requests from people that ask if I could send them a new recording, because they've been working with it and now they feel that part is really covered and they want to work on something else.
Well, and even if you have this library, it's going to be a wonderful resource for clients, but even for people that might not have worked one-on-one with you, if they've got opportunities to access something like that.
Exactly.
Ooh.
Yes, yes.
So for the hypnosis, for you, it was almost the natural progression. Like if we're
Yes.
thinking about what you've been doing and the way that you've been working with people, that could have been the next evolutionary step. So you've taken clinical hypnosis. So what did that all entail? Why were you drawn to that?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because once I started the training, I realized that I have been doing this all the way along anyways.
Yeah.
But since we live in that society of, diplomas and things, and that's a learning experience for us as well. I feel as people that work in this realm to get to a point where we don't really need that. You know, it's I feel it's like it's an interesting journey about being curious and wanting to learn and diving into different modalities. But then also, when do you come to this inner peace and this contentment, confidence, and knowing that really indeed there is not maybe another course you have to take, or maybe it's as simple as just remembering what you already know and have known for possibly many lifetimes, right? To share that wisdom, it's like, wait a minute, maybe I just got to be really quiet and hone in. But that training, yeah, it was definitely a natural progression. When towards the end of running the studio, again, that became my signature class. I think that was actually the only thing I was doing at the end was the nidra with the sound bath, and people came to me and um, I think my other yoga classes, they were so, even my yoga classes, they were so meditative that um, I would just ask people to sit there and close their eyes and be in their body. And I'm thinking, okay, no wonder they're all going to my amazing teachers' classes now, because this is not really yoga anymore.
No
What?
tag the dog.
I'm just like, what? So yeah, the that's what I was drawn to. And then people came to me and said, Yulia, I don't know what's going on, but your voice changes when you do this, you shift into this place. It's so powerful. This is what you should be doing. And I felt that. I think when for lots of us, if we allow it to actually be with in our body and see the signs and become aware, that we know when we are in that sweet spot, when we are living our purpose, what we came here to do, right? And so that's what it felt like. It didn't feel like an effort. It felt like I would shift into this state and just be a little bit in this trance-like state myself, like becoming a vessel to for others to communicate with their higher self, basically. So the training was really a year of learning certain techniques that have been around forever, because which is so interesting when you look into the history of hypnosis. It was used in Europe and all over the world, actually at times even for medical purposes, right? And for surgery, all the way to surgeries in that very deep somnambulism state of hypnosis. Um, and unfortunately, through different circumstances that you probably know, it then we kind of lost it, and that's the beauty of like recovering it now as a tool for people for healing. But yeah, so I learned a few of those more traditional techniques, the Dave Allman method and inductions, how to get people into hypnosis was part of the program. Then there was 100-hour practicum, actually, where we worked one-on-one with people. I think it was 5 session that we had to do with every client, and just recorded the progress, and which was obviously very interesting. And then different techniques from lighter states of hypnosis, which is I always call it like the feel good hypnosis, which is your fill your cup hypnosis, which is kind of what we do in Yoga Nidra in those settings, with those group settings. That's really all we can do because we're not working one-on-one. And then the age regression, which is really my thing, if that's if I can say it like that, which really gets me so excited. Always has, and that's really what I feel quite passionate about, taking people on these journeys through um, time and space for root cause discovery, if someone is ready for that. And that's the big thing right there. People have to be ready to go and be comfortable to go on these journeys.
Yeah, that's a huge piece where sometimes the mind can interfere too, or and I know you know this, but the human in their conscious state might really want the answers, but on that soul level, maybe that information is not meant to be received now. So that's
Mhm.
be interesting for those cases.
Yeah, absolutely. I think typically hypnotherapy is not something that people reach out to as their first. Actually, maybe things
Now,
are changing. I have some younger clients now in their 20s that are really drawn to it. But a lot of my clients that are in their 40s, in their 50s, they have tried so many different techniques and so many different, usually traditional therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy for decades sometimes, which was very frustrating for them. And then hypnosis is kind of the next step to try something different. And um, yeah, for me, looking at traditional therapy, and there's absolutely amazing therapists out there, even that I work with, or we refer people back and forth. Everything has its place. Absolutely. I think, though, sometimes the tricky part in the traditional therapy can be that we can't um, reach these deeper patterns that we have created over the years. And what I mean by that is those patterns come from earliest childhood on. There's survival patterns that we need to create as little people in our family of origin, just be able to cope sometimes because we're such sensitive beings. And that doesn't mean that even if we didn't grow up in a very unhealthy, toxic, abusive environment, but even things that we as adults wouldn't see as very traumatic, as little beings, lots of things can be very intense for us. So we're building these armors, like a little fortress around us, to cope, to function, and then to sit in front of someone and having to take that all down, these structures that we've carefully created in a conscious conversation like we're having right now, is, in my opinion, really hard and really tricky, because you are filtering, you are going into, well, I need this. I've protected myself with this. This is my identity. This is who I have become to the outside world. And that's where I think hypnosis is magical and powerful, because when we get into that theta brainwave state, which is, as you know, not the stage hypnosis state where we're boom knocked out, but where we are just in that beautiful, relaxed space. And what we do is we're going to lift the curtain open. We're going to put all that protection and the chatter and the armor away, and we go right to the truth, to your higher self, to your source. You're just willing to go there in that safe place. In that moment, you feel you give yourself basically permission to access this truth that is otherwise so tricky to get through. There is other ways, obviously, to get there, but I think hypnosis is just a beautiful state to access that, your own inner wisdom and truth and knowledge that is just waiting for you to to come out. Yeah.
You know what, Yulia, for years, oh my gosh, I've been a channel and an oracle and bringing information through for people. And the reason I gravitate towards hypnosis so much is because the client becomes that channel. The client is the one that has all that information, and it's so empowering, where it's like you're the guide and you're helping to support, but you're not telling them anything. It's literally being brought through from them, and that can even shift things within how they see themselves or feel about themselves, or even what is possible when they get information that they might have no clue where it came from, but it's been stored within them. And I feel like even perhaps why things are changing and people are becoming more open to hypnotism, or it's just the
Yeah.
hypnosis resurging, is because there's that element of empowerment too. Have you been seeing that where clients are almost in complete shock by information that comes through, or just like, wow, where did that come from?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. Um, yeah, I believe overall that we are, I mean, there's first of all, if we look at again the traditional therapy, I think there is clearly a reason, and not just traditional therapy, but even what else is going on right now in the world is that therapists are integrating so many other tools like hypnosis, EMDR. There is this awareness. Wait a minute. Again, what we just talked about. You can't really just access these deep, deep layers of pain and trauma that are in yourself through your brain, through your just logical thinking, which is so hilarious because we have created this society clearly over the last decades, where we figured that everything can be dealt with and figured out with logic and with our brain. And so our pain, our trauma, everything, we just sit there, let's talk about it, let's talk it out. And that's actually one of the biggest things that happens when clients do come to me. As I mentioned earlier, they say, okay, have done all the work. I have read all the books about forgiveness. I understand why my mom did this, why my dad did this, that my grandparents traumatized my own parents. That this is generational trauma that was passed on. I understand it. I forgive them. They did the best with what they had at the time. Yada, yada, yada. All the usual. Wrote the books, did the work, but for some reason, the pain is still here. I'm still getting triggered. When I go home at Christmas and I see my sister, I see my mom, I get all the feelings again. And all of this that I thought I had dealt with logically in my brain, like I read the books, did the work, but here I feel it. I feel it in my chest. I feel it in my throat. I feel it in my tummy. I feel it like it's so that awareness now, finally, again, therapists adding all these modalities, somatic work, breath work, EMDR, hypnosis, finally now over the last years coming to a point where we realize, wait a minute, so we are a little bit more complex. We can't just figure out we're holding everything in ourselves and our whole being, and we have to feel that. And yes, when we go on these journeys, and access these experiences, these traumas, these places, not to relive it, but to witness it, from a perspective of today's wisdom, knowledge, understanding of who we are today, coming from a completely different perspective, but helping to soothe and release and let go of these old emotions and patterns that are somewhere stuck, and gently guiding, supporting people to let go of that, and not living life through that lens anymore of these old hurts and pains, right?
Right, where the
And
keeps going, but nothing's done. Like it's just over and over and over. It's like, how can you move forward or live life if that story keeps playing over?
Exactly, exactly. And I think that is really the powerful, magical stuff that happens in these sessions, that we allow ourselves to go to these places and to start seeing it and have not that emotion attached anymore of the little girl or the little boy, but we lift that and release it and let that go with, again, today's wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and set ourselves free, and truly, honestly, even set the other people free that are part of this dynamic. Because there's this whole dynamic of holding, if we're in a state of not being able to let go or forgiveness, there's this power over state and these dynamics that we can't really heal within families. So it's very powerful for everyone involved, for your family before you, past family, to go to these places of healing. But again, I completely drifted off your question. I remember what you said about people being surprised, and almost every single time, I think people are quite surprised with how much they have buried the truth, because we become experts in that. Again, from a young age, we have to some degree, and then we become experts for decades to put, the unpleasant. Maybe we have little glimpses of wanting to connect with our truth, but then we're gonna shove it down again. And things like our world today and the phones and the constant distraction and social media doesn't make it much easier. It makes it even harder to stay and do that work. And then when you actually give yourself that time and that moment, and to go on these journeys to really just simply connect with your own truth, with your higher self, because that's what it is. People are almost always shocked, and the stuff that comes out can be very, very simple. Like this client I recently had, which is, I think, a great example, where she really just couldn't figure out why she was self-sabotaging and didn't do the things she knew that are good for her, like eating healthy and going into her infrared sauna and all the stuff that she usually does, moving, yoga, and she couldn't figure it out. And she sat with me and explained to me logically how amazing her life is and how grateful she is, which again, I'm sure, she is, and she is quite happy in her relationship, and everyone is healthy and happy, and her kids are doing good, and she's financially in a spot where she's really comfortable and enjoying life and everything. And she said, I don't know what's happening. And we came into hypnosis, and this was quite interesting. And I come up with this example because it was so drastic. I think within 5 minutes we were in hypnosis, she just bursted out saying, I hate my job. And I can't stand my job. Oh, and that never was even a topic in our pre-talk. She never even mentioned it. And when we came out of it, there was the shock effect. She came out of hypnosis, and she had made so much time and effort into justifying to stay in that job because it's smart, it pays well, it's just a few more years, it's safe, it's easy, I have the flexibility, I can work from home. And even when she came out of the hypnosis, her eyes were like, oh my goodness, what just happened? And I was like, truth bomb right there. And I was wondering, and I would obviously never suggest anything to a client, what to do or not to do, or let go of a job or relationship. That's not our work, as you know, our job. But I saw her just before Christmas, which was about 6 months later, at a different type of event. And she was beaming and joyful. And she came to me and said, I'm just training someone. I let go of my job. I'm going to start 2026 with doing something different. And that's a simple example. That's why it's maybe a good one of how to access truth in hypnosis in that state.
I did want to share as well. So I knew you were coming on the podcast, and it ended up working out earlier in January where I was like, I want to book a session with Yulia. I'm like, she's coming. I want to have a session. And I
Yeah.
think it's important to note that as coaches or mentors or guides or working in a field where you are caring for other people or helping other people, it's really important to look after you and to be able to support yourself, even if you've got the tools. Like, okay, yeah, I could do help self-hypnosis. I could do different things, but there's something much more powerful that can be added to it when you have someone else holding space for you. So even in that session, I found it interesting because I got insights that I might not have thought about before, or I didn't fully know that they were lodged in my heart in the way that they were. And just to be able to have someone else hold the space and to guide you through it was really beautiful. So I thoroughly enjoyed that session. And do you offer them online? Like, so I was fortunate enough to see you in person, but do you offer them online as well?
I do. I do through Zoom, definitely offer sessions. If someone, or sometimes people also do a combination of both to come and see me first in person. And then if someone is traveling or if it's further away, then absolutely. Um, what I like to do is in my work, again, I try to bring different modalities together as well. And because I am working with quite a few people that feel overwhelmed or yeah, anxiety is a big word that can go from being a little uncomfortable all the way to almost not being able to function, which I sometimes have. I a lot even with younger people and kids these days that aren't even able to go to school because the anxiety is so overwhelming and things like that. So what I like to do is then I like to bring in other tools as well, as you experienced as well. I love the combination. Yes, that was. I love the combination again of body and mind. Yeah, healing. What I do quite a bit is the somatic release that I keep circling back to because I do feel we hold so much tension and stress and um, trauma in our bodies, and we, some of us might have that opportunity to release it through yoga, through dance, through whatever we do. But this somatic release that I like to do is very really targeted at the psoas, which we now know the psoas connected to the fight or flight part of the brain, and that's why it's a quite powerful release, a shaking release. That I do like to guide people through if they're comfortable, if they call to do it, and that can be create a nice release and a nice opening from that to go into hypnosis after. It's a nice combination of releasing this and then being open to go on these journeys. So that's one thing I like to offer
I
clients. But
Sorry for
yeah,
jumping in. I also really appreciate that you incorporate the body as well, because so often in specific healing modalities or methods that you use, we don't bypass the body, but sometimes it feels like you do, and we're a whole being. So there is the spirit, the soul, the mind, and the body. So I love that. Of course you would, though.
yeah.
Incorporate the body, but I love that you do offer that too.
Yeah, I said thank you for pointing that out. I was wondering how you felt about that combination, and I think it's really beneficial for some people. And some people, they do it and they say, "Oh, this is cool. I'm going to do this again in an event. Maybe I join you in 3 months or 6 months." Some people are so passionate about it, to regulate the nervous system. Again, often people that do struggle with anxiety that want use it at home once a week or every 2 weeks. And so I like to, I guess that's my point. I like to offer a variety of tools. Tapping is another thing that I circled back to, inviting people. And I was interested in that 15 years ago, one of those many tools, and then you forget about it and maybe it doesn't matter. But now the talking about the subconscious mind, tapping is actually the meridians. There's different techniques out there. There's the EFT out there, and that where you go through those points and of your body and eyes and below and all those spots. Um, Again, can be a very powerful tool for people, not just as a calming tool with anxiety, or even if you are stuck and you want to break through something. What I like to use the tapping for is do a first round where you just take inventory. Where am I at? Allowing those emotions, speaking them out loud. I feel overwhelmed. This is how it makes me feel. And then doing a second round of tapping and going through those points where you set intention to shift that and open that. And there is a calming aspect, but there's also this beautiful aspect of, for some of my clients that do this quite frequently, to access more subconscious suppressed truth that way as well, over days and weeks of this little 3 minutes a day tapping, where they start saying things as they go through these different tapping points and they don't even know where that's coming from, the things they're saying. That's another one I started working a lot with. Some people actually even use the tapping within the state of hypnosis, which I'm not doing. I offer it in between sessions. But yeah, so many good body mind tools out there that we can work with for sure.
Do you also offer retreats? So what does that look like? Because I know hypnosis is a component of that, but
Yes.
what are your retreats like?
Um, it's a fill your cup experience. It's an opportunity to really, I always like to pick locations in nature, which the one that I've coming up in May is in Invermere, and a little barn between the town of Invermere and Panorama, the ski resort. So really nothing around it, just this barn. We do yoga in the mornings, a little breath work. And then we do yoga nidra in a group hypnosis setting, really to just kind of fill your cup, but also to inspire a little bit, yeah, to connect with that truth that we've talked about. Maybe some ideas that come up to really connect, give yourself that time to connect with your authentic self, some journaling. This one in May, I do this with Jenna, who's absolutely amazing, golden harmonics. And so she will be there to support that experience with playing her alchemy crystal bowls, which is beautiful. And then we have some fun things like a full moon, which we just realized actually that it is during full moon ceremony, release fire ceremony. We have a wood-fired hot tub up there on the mountain, with beautiful views around it. We do a little hike to a canyon, and so anything really to give yourself that opportunity to connect again with your authentic self, to fill your cup, to reflect, to connect with other people as well, that are on that same journey. And then I drizzle in a little bit of other things, a little group activity that goes into the realm of family constellations that we can talk about maybe at a different episode, because that is another new passion of mine. So we do a little exercise where we connect with our authentic selves, yeah, so it'll be fun, a good experience, I hope, for everyone. Healing, calming, relaxing. Yeah.
So if you looked back into your life 15, 17 years ago when you first started to really open up to this journey, because you've always been on the path, but maybe more of the embodied, empowered part of it,
Yeah.
could you have ever imagined where you are now in 2026 and doing what you're doing in the ways that you're doing it?
Um, I have not, no. To be honest with you, and maybe whoever listens to this and is supposed to hear these words, and I say this, I share this with my clients as well. I felt so stuck in this old life and old conditioning that I grew up with, that even leaving Europe way to a different country, um, thinking that would change things, but it really doesn't. It's another example of that you can travel anywhere, go anywhere in the world. You can't really leave the past behind you unless you go inward. No, I did not. I thought because I did try many things and therapies that I wanted to work through, um, stuff, childhood stuff, and experiences, and I thought that was just how it is and how I will live my life. And when I look now at that old me from 15, 20 years ago, it actually blows my mind, which means if that's possible for me, it's possible for absolutely everyone to, um, if you're ready to go to these places and visit these places and on journeys, that we all have that, hold that within us to really shift and release and completely, create a different life for ourselves, which is really, really empowering, and beautiful. Because, and that's what I tell again, most of my clients, that feel they have been a certain way for so long, that it becomes their identity, that they cling to, that they hold on to, that they want to get rid of but can't. It becomes almost comfortable, even though it is unhealthy, but it's all they know. And that was me. And to break through that and to be okay, there is something on the other side of this. Yes, that's how I feel, that I've really, really, um, that's why I'm so absolutely passionate about what I'm doing, because it's available to each and every one of us if we're ready to go that journey, and we can shift out of old ways of thinking and being and feeling and can create a completely different life.
And I feel to have a guide that has walked through the fire or some of those challenges helps because it's lived experience too. It's not just the book smarts or, the studying, there's actual life experience. And where you said there is like there's something on the other side. So it helps to have someone that understands that and has been through that and then can help to support with the journey to that. Um, where can people find you? Because I'll have this in the show notes with your links, but just so they can hear it if they're listening, where do they find you? Social media, websites?
Yes, my website is innerpeacecoaching.com. I'm on social media, Facebook, old school, as my kids would say, inner peace coaching. And then, I'm more active on my Instagram. I try to be, which is inner peace coaching with Julia. And yeah, I'm offering my sessions in Cochrane, Calgary, the area around there, Breck Creek, all those beautiful areas there, and in Invermere, BC,
Okay.
and around Invermere. Yeah.
And question as well before we go, what would be a nice introductory session for someone if they were just coming to work with you? What would you recommend?
Um, Really, if they're completely new to hypnosis, I think there is, maybe it's easier to say what I wouldn't recommend. As I said
Yes.
earlier, it's an
Yeah.
age, it's an age regression, or age regression meaning going back in time, or if we did one, then one to more positive memories the first time. Um, and it's really just so individual. What I often do in first sessions to get really comfortable with the process is something where we fill the cup and bring in a sense of groundedness and a sense of, often people, you might feel the same when you work with clients, are so beautifully surprised, and just by going in that realm of how peaceful it is and how beautiful. And it's almost like coming home, which it kind of is, maybe. Um, and so just and maybe if there's one question to figure out, that we could drizzle that into the session and play with it a little bit, talking with the higher self. But that's what I would recommend. First, kind of something that's grounding and that is, yeah, uplifting a bit, filling your cup and prepping yourself then for the next step of the journey. I would always start with something almost like an intention setting for the journey, grounding, experiencing it, filling your cup, setting an intention. And that would be a good place to start, and really becoming clear. Sometimes that first session can also help you to really get ready for that journey and to find out, yeah, set the intention for where you want to go, and enjoy that new feeling of going into this space of peaceful awareness.
On that note, we will say bye for now. I know we're going to have you back on the podcast
It was such an amazing experience, and yeah, I really enjoyed connecting with you.
too, and I can't wait for everybody to hear and even share their reflections.
Thank you so much for having me, Terra.
You're welcome. Bye, love.
Bye.